The Konversation podcast with a K celebrates Women's History Month. Sheryl Sandberg stated, "We need women at all levels, including the top, to change the dynamic, reshape the conversation, to make sure women's voices are heard and heeded, not overlooked and ignored." Women have made many contributions in impacting every spectrum of society in the world. The Konversation podcast honors and salute you. Happy Women's Month. We may have made many strides throughout the years. They have made an impact on 7 mountains of influence, which is family, religion, business, education, arts, media, and politics. Have you considered sponsoring? You can Cash App us or set up recurring monthly donations. Our Cash App is $RareImage26. For recurring contributions, scan the QR code at the bottom. The Konversation podcast highlights 2 businesses every month. If you want your business to be mentioned, email us at rareimage26@gmail.com with your information. Are you looking for an uplifting, inspirational music? One that will encourage and energize your spirit? Check us out on Live 365 Vision Radio, the Rare Image Company. The scheduled program will start shortly.
Don't prove me wrong, prove you right. Don't prove me wrong, prove you right. My word is bond, we don't spit no lies. A daughter of the sunshine, but every blue moon I come alive at night. I like lace and I like braids, but I love my natural edges laid from the east side, building on the west coast. My high tolerance for pain.
What's up, my people? Welcome to this Friday show. We are so glad that you have came to join us to the Konversation podcast. Come on, welcome to the couch. And this is Happy March. This is Women's Month. Come on, give a hand. Yay! This is Women's Month. We are just celebrating some phenomenal women, some women that have pressed and went to the greatest heights and the deepest depths, and they're just here to tell their story this month. We are here on Women's Month to just congratulate them and propel them and say thank you for every contribution, all of your effectiveness in the earth. And I am so glad. Y'all know what's coming up, right? It's 7 days before my birthday. Oh yes, the girl's birthday is here. Oh yes, and I am so excited that this month, that happens to be my birthday month, is Women's Month. So not only am I celebrating another year of life, I'm celebrating women all across the world in all 7 mountains. Y'all know this month we are talking about how the women have impacted the 7 mountains of influence. Come on, we're talking about family, we're talking about religion, education, media, entertainment, and government. And today I have a wonderful special guest. She has become one of my closest, I know as TT, but this is Apostle Addie Rawls. And if y'all would, give a hand clap and welcome her on to the stage. Hey.
Hello.
Hello. We are so excited about you being here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I have been amping this up because, like, the first thing I ever heard about you, my pastor Eric Newell, shout out to Pastor Eric, he was like, there is this judge and she is phenomenal. And I was like, a judge? I don't know if been close, nigga. He was like, but she's so down to earth though. And I was like, really? And I was like, I need to meet this lady. And when I met you, I didn't even know he was talking about you. But I was just like, I was instantly connected in my spirit. I was just like, I told my brother, I said, it's this lady. I feel like she my auntie.
I am. And I've adopted you.
And I appreciate it. I need to be adopted. But so I just want to, first of all, I'm here to celebrate you and tell you thank you for your contribution to the earth. And not just to that, like the way you are, I know you impact spaces in every place the same way. You can just tell that. And so with this being Women's Month, I said, I know who we need on the show. I already know. I told my brother, I said, you just let me text her and see what she say. So one of my first questions I wanted to ask was, did you always know what you wanted to do? Has it always been like a thing? Because, some people grow up and they've always had sort of this natural gift to do a certain thing. Was this always you?
I think for especially women of color, it's in our DNA that, we dream and we dream big and we run after it. And I grew up in a small, rural, eastern North Carolina town, and it's called Washington. Normally, when you say people Washington, they think you mean Washington, D.C. But I meant Washington, North Carolina.
Wow.
And I remember as a young child watching shows like Perry Mason. That's really dating.
Oh, that's the show.
And then later Matlock and just different places like that. And at some point, I always wanted to right the wrongs. So that I had a desire then to go to law school. I remember in high school, I used to read about like the Brown versus the Board of Education and Plessy versus Ferguson and all the voting rights. I did that if I had an assignment, I had to write a paper in school, I would choose people like Gordon Parks and Gwendolyn Brooks and those people that touched that against all odds, they desired to do something. So it was just there. I was the only African American in the gifted and talented program at school.
Wow.
And I had to work harder. And one of the things that stood out to me that always kept me grounded, I remember when you would study with your study groups and you would go to the different friends' homes, you would be in their garages. And I remember one time I had an assignment and my fellow students were in my living room. And my grandmother was concerned about them sitting around on the floor and doing the work. And because, they were probably another color. So you understand that.
Right.
I remember saying to her, when I go to their homes, I'm in the garages. I'm in the den. I welcome these people into my living room. And my home is just as good as theirs. I lived in a housing project, but our home was clean. Love was there. All of my needs were met. And I could do my homework there at my home just like I could do it at their homes. And so that just made me want to do something, wanted to work hard. And I realized that the reason why I was able to get where I needed to be, I stood on the shoulders of strong women. My grandmother, my auntie, my Sunday school teachers, my school teachers, and those people. There were men around too, but those women, they could really bring home the bacon and do everything else around the house and make us feel important. They were resilient, they were resourceful, and they were just ready to push us to every limit to be the best we could ever be. And that's the foundation that I had.
Yes, I love that. And I was going to ask you what were some of your influences growing up, but you said your grandparents and stuff like that. And I love it, the fact that you tell the pre-story of it, because sometimes when they look at your now, oh, she don't understand. She's never been where I've been, And so for you to say, hey, I was in the housing projects, they were welcoming to my home when I was welcoming to the garage. All those backstories are very, very necessary for people to understand why you are the way you are, how you move, why you move the way you move. Like, I love all of that. I
can tell you a quick story about that really impressed me. It was one of my friends had an opportunity to attend Salem Academy in Winston-Salem. And I remember at the time, she needed some assistance with her lunch and some other things were going on. And so her mother called me and said, Addie, can you talk to her? I said, yeah. I called her on the phone. I said, listen, you need to take advantage of every opportunity to be where you are. This door is open for you. And honey, don't worry about free lunch because free lunch isn't really free. She got me back later. That's going to be my first book, I promise you. And she had to introduce me as a speaker at an event in Winston-Salem. And she said she remembered going with me to see me graduate. And all she could think about when I was walking across the stage was, there goes free lunch. There goes free lunch. There goes free lunch. And so I'm very grateful that she could take to heart what I had to say. And from taking that to heart, she was able to really see and recognize that we get where we're going. We stand on many shoulders. We experience many things. But then we not only do we do that, but I took seriously my responsibility to share that story with her, to let her know it didn't matter. You know, it didn't matter that I had free lunch when I was in school growing up. My degree read just like everybody else's. And at that point, I was graduating from Wake Forest. And I think she said she may have seen me graduating from law school. And that's when she had that thought, there's free lunch walking across that stage.
Free lunch. Yes, I love it. I love it. What challenges did you face, whether it was racial or stereotypes, while you were going through your process of becoming the judge? And I'm talking about from going through law school up until you actually became judge. Did you receive stereotypes, or did they treat you a certain type of way just because you were a woman and an African-American woman in a prominent position?
Well, when I first moved to Johnson County, I was told, and that's Johnson County, North Carolina, Smithfield area, I was told there used to be a sign up that says, welcome to the home of the KKK. And everyone knew that. So when they heard I was coming here, certainly God allowed me to have many firsts in my life. And that was one of the firsts, that I ended up coming here as the first African-American assistant district attorney.
Wow.
And there were many who were afraid that my presence there gave access to justice for people who had not normally had that same access. So there were lawyers who would say, my business have gone down since she's gotten here because she's helping certain people out. I helped everybody out. I did my job. I had the things that told my job. They've been doing that job for years, but all of a sudden, because I show up and my skin tone is brown, then I help everybody out. There were lawyers, very few, and one of them was our first African-American judge, who came to me one day. He says, I need to see, can I plead this case to this? And I said, of course. He said, but I don't want you to do anything that you're not supposed to do. I want to protect you because you're here, and we're glad to have you here. I said, everybody else is asking for the same thing. What you asked me for is well within the guidelines of what I can do. So those are the types of things. So then fast forward it to 11 and a half years later. Then as I was pursuing the judgeship, the first thing someone said was, I didn't have enough experience. There were certainly other judges who didn't have as much experience as I've had, who they didn't have a problem with them. But because of my skin tone, there was issues with it. I had 3 opponents, and God allowed me to win. The unique thing about it is one of the opponents was my church member, and we got rid of everybody. And for the general election, it was me and him. But the way I felt was God had opened the door, that he had prepared me all my life for it. And it didn't mean that God didn't have a blessing for him down the road. And he eventually did become a judge. But that seat the Lord had ordained was my seat. And I believe God, because this was the prayer I made to God. Don't open the door for me, God, if it's just to humor what I want. I want to be in your divine will. So if you open this door for me, I believe and I trust that this is your will for my life. So I had to go to churches, and we would backtrack churches because I would go and then he would go to churches. And pastors would look at me, I'm praying for the will of God. But I let them know on January the 25th of 2002, the will of God was done when I was sworn in, and that God had given me that position. and that position was mine. And I held on to it for 20 years. And I retired as judge because God made that way and opened that door for me. And I'm so very grateful. And I believe that I have that same responsibility. The blessing was I was a minister then. I'm a minister still now. Mm-hmm. And the young man that replaced me on the bench, he was also an ordained elder in the church. And the day I heard that he had received the appointment, I cried because I believed that this seat, we tried to figure it out. We tried to hook it up, do what we could do for him. And God said, but you can never be what is divinely orchestrated.
Ooh, yes.
And God orchestrated it, and he's there. He actually did not get enough names to be on the ballot because he was independent. But then God orchestrated that. He allowed another judge to move up, and he received that appointment, so he never lost a day's work. And now he's in the position. And so I believe that my season in that role had come, that God still had someone to keep diversity and inclusion still present in our court system, in a place where the sign said, welcome to the home of the KKK.
I love it. When I tell you that is so inspirational to many who feel like there are certain obstacles that just block them all the time. And for you to talk about, let's just talk about for a moment how you were able, because a lot of people think, you know, when they talk about the secular world versus, you know, you being a woman of the cloth, that's two different entities. But I'm listening to you and I see that you have literally interwoven them into one place and open the door for other people to be free to be interwoven in God and still hold that seat. Tell me a little bit about, because I believe that open door for you was about inclusion, all of that, but it was also an open door for men and women of God to sit in a certain space that they were designed to sit in all along.
I just finished seminary after a long track, and my paper was on justice and food scarcity. And I remember there was a season where my professor wanted me to talk about justice through the lenses of God, spiritual lenses, and justice through the lens of the court system. And she wanted to hear some mind-blowing difference in it. And I finally told her, with all due respect, I'm not a multiple personality person. I am the same one that puts that robe on to go work court Monday through Friday. And then God allows me to place on my clergy and minister. While I understand my role may be different, Addie Rawls didn't change. God had really done what you said, interwoven. I didn't interweave it, but God interwoven it. And I truly believe that even before I was in my mother's womb, God ordained me for these types of things. And he allowed me. And I remember thinking when I was running to be elected for judge, a whole lot of people, their mother was a lawyer. Their father was a lawyer. Their grandfather was a lawyer. They were in law enforcement. And all these people had been in those positions. But then God allowed me free lunch.
Free lunch.
To be in that position. And so I recognized then that not only was I standing there for me, but my grandmother's shoulder I was standing on, my guidance counselor's shoulder I was standing on, and all the people who believed and who said, no holds barred, you can be all that God says you can be. They were shoulders I stood on. And we still ran into the same barriers with the church. There were many churches that I ministered as an evangelist, that I would preach and people would accept Christ, and I would move from one place to another, and the Spirit of God would come moving in those places. But then when I tell them the Lord has called me to pastor, then you run into some of the same types of things.
Yes.
You've done that before, but that's what you were doing.
Right.
Those types of things. And I realized then that there was a call upon my life. And even now, I mean, the shock of everybody is time. It was time to pursue kingdom and kingdom work, that I had given in the marketplace those things that were necessary. But God was calling me for the apostolic leadership shift for the 21st century church. And in that shifting, I see now more the opportunity. Even this platform you've allowed me to be on tonight shows me ways where I can then reach out and begin to do the teaching that God has orchestrated and called me to do, to allow people to understand that when you have ministry, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be integrity. It needs to be salvation and teaching. It needs to be those types of things available to us, accountability. You know, those are the things that you have to teach for kingdom, because those are the gifts that we bring in, all of those. So I understand that I still have responsibility. That's why I teach. I tell them ministry means service.
Yes.
And so even as serving as a public servant in a courtroom did not stop that same ministry call to serve. So I encourage women everywhere. I want people to be greater. I want people to do more. I always tell people, my secret is, and I'll tell you the secret, then you'll know the secret. You never let people know you know how much power you have. You rest in it. I'd rather you think I'm the quietest person in the room. You don't have to understand, but I want you to understand that in this season, God is carefully placing us in position. And as we get in position, we have a responsibility to pull someone else into position and to teach each one, teaching one. And I am who I am because people were willing to be the teachers. They were willing to be the leaders who taught and who pushed and who told us we can do it. I think I can, and I'll never forget just being able to meet every challenge. I rode to college sometimes on Greyhound. But guess what? I got
there. You got there. You got there. You got in the building where you needed to be. That's
God, and I was in the building. And favor was, that's not to say we did it all on our own. I remember there was a dean who liked me at Wake Forest. So that when I worked for her as a residence counselor, she would put me in a single room and charge me a double price.
Wow.
There were people along the way who sowed those type of seeds into our life. That's why my college kids will tell you when they see the pastor and they speak to the pastor, I'm going to shake a little bit of money in their hand. I try to keep a little 50 or more on my hand so I can do the shake, shake, shake and encourage them to do what you do. Because that's how we got there. Yes. And I'm so grateful.
And it's these rare gems. Okay, so the name of our company is Rare Image. And part of the whole reason why we made this company, because we wanted to make sure that those who may not have even tapped into this type of platform, those rare jewels that are hidden, that we have a platform to put them on so they can be seen and shine bright. And you are one of those rare jewels that, I mean, you're just off in the little cut, but once you come into that space, this is a little different right here. This is something special. Like I can't put my finger on it, but it's something special. And with the platform that we have a lot of young people that are on our platform that's in college. They're pursuing, they're doing things. I know my brother is going crazy in the background right now because he's big on government and to hear the interwovenness of everything that's going on. I know he's going crazy in the background. So, brother, if you have questions, please type them in the comment section so we can ask the question, because I know you're burning right now. But I am so glad that you're on here and they're able to see the strength of, because a lot of them in these days and time, especially those that I know that are going into government positions, they feel like they have to trade their salvation or do the job. Like they're trying to figure out in their brain. And matter of fact, one of the youth that we used to mentor, she was just on the live, just being transparent and say, I'm not perfect and I'm trying to learn how to be all that God has called me to be, but still be what I need to be. And I just simply told her, your simple confession made you free from everything, and he's going to teach you and show you how to move about your time, your space, your moment, and do it under him without having to compromise who you are, the things God has called you to do. You don't have to compromise those things. So to hear you talk about just everything that, the mindset of how God placed you in these spaces and places, and how you never compromise who you were supposed to be. Whether it was an African-American woman standing up to say, hey, I am this, I am that. I don't have to change,
Okay.
or a minister of the gospel. You don't have to, lay the gospel down. Jesus, close your ears and your eyes. I'm about to do this. No, it's one thing. It's one. I'm not. I don't have multiple personalities.
That's
But
right.
a lot of people do. If you see them in this space, they completely different in another space, and it's hard. I think it's hard for the young people being Christians to understand that life, because they do see a twofold space in a lot of people, and a lot of people do not know how to flow as one God being. They think they have to be something else in one space for people to accept and another. And I love the way that you have just simply embraced who God has called you to be. So how do you think, with that being said, how do you think the role, because we talked about this Sunday and it got into a 2-hour discussion. I think it went into a 2.5 hour. One of the guests came on because they was asking, do you think women can be apostles? And basically we came to the answer, yes. God has no respect of person. The first woman, Mary, she was the first one to see him it said as an apostle. You just had to see the resurrection. And so she was the first one to see him. So, they had all these questions, but one of the questions was, what is the role of a woman in today's time, and how has it changed from then? And one of the big things that I was, trying to help people to see, that they didn't have to change femininity in order to be in authority, or in order to because if you notice, a lot of the young people, they've gotten very masculine in order to hold high positions, because they think they have to be in order to compete with the men. So tell me, what are you feeling about that, and how do you hold your authority without sort of giving in to the feminine part of you? Like,
I am unapologetically Addie. When I pledged for my sorority, my line name was just Addie. I am who I am. And I don't have to compete. I found out you just be who you are. You be consistent in who you are. And you understand that. I know what God called me to do. And it doesn't mean that he hasn't called someone else to do it, but you have to be confident in what you've been called to do. I had an opportunity Sunday to participate in the installation of a pastor, but I noticed something, and I called her about it. I noted that no one laid hands on her. No one anointed her. She did
wow.
have her ministers come and lay hands on her while the minister prayed for her, but no one laid hands. And I called her and I said, "This is not an area of submission, but this is a sacred moment for you." And I said, "If you don't do anything else, do me a favor and go to your pastor who was in charge of that service and ask him, will he anoint you and lay his hands on you? And then on Sunday morning, when you get back to your church, you call your ministers in your office, and I want you to anoint and lay hands on them. While I know that their hands were on you, you are the set leader who should then transfer the anointing that is upon you upon those who are willing to serve with you and make it happen." I don't have to do anything to prove it. I just have to live holy, live righteously. So we're in the season where people will tell us all the time what we can't be. But I believe it just like this. May the works I've done
Speak for me. Yes. That's it. That is it.
And so I see a question from Brother Darnell that says, how are you able to navigate in a culture that still says or believes that a woman is not supposed to be in a leadership position, whether in government or pastoral? One thing is people got to know their Bible. Many people would argue that Paul disliked women in authority because he said women ought to be silent. But in seminary, I read a book called Her Story, Paul. And it was the story of Paul's respect for women. It's like if you stick that one conversation that Paul said about women being silent, you'll forget that he said, I commend to you my sister Phoebe, who was a servant of the church in Acts 16. You forget about even Priscilla and Aquila, who he said laid their own necks on the line for him. You forget that Jesus was born to a virgin named Mary. Mary wasn't married to Joseph. So for those that want to say because we were born out of wedlock, we don't have a right to be there. Mary was impregnated with the King of Kings and the Lords of Lords. even when she didn't know a man. So you forget the many opportunities. And so you don't have to put me down to put yourself up.
Woo, woo.
I know how to respect authority, but the same respect I give, I believe they ought to give it back to me. So I've been able to do what I do because anyone couldn't do it like I did it, because God equipped us to do certain things. And it's not saying that we're being negative against anybody else. So even in the position of judge, I'm grateful that after 3 ran against me the first time, the Lord allowed me to not have any opponents any other time. Because the works that I have done speak for me. And ironically enough, let me tell you about paths and connection. We are certainly mourning the loss of one of our friends, Apostle Sandra Appleberry, who is a strong connector in the kingdom.
Wow.
But there is a lady who she said visited her in the hospital in New Orleans, where she may have been in the nursing home or hospital, who is from Sanford, North Carolina. I worked in 3 counties, Johnston, Harnett, and Lee counties. Sanford is in Lee County. I met a lady there by the name of Dr. Alice Hooker, who used to be an AME Zion minister, but then she opened her church. She was best friends with Apostle Appleberry.
Wow.
So in my conversation with Apostle Appleberry, who I called Apostle Mother, she mentioned that she had a visit from a lady from North Carolina named Alice Hooker, who I said, she used to come to my courtroom when I was a young prosecutor and would sit and talk to me about how she could help children in the community and say to me, when you see me in court, I'm not up here with anybody. I'm in here because I'm praying for the children and I'm praying for you. She did not know me. So who would know in the 30 years span later, I found out this same woman who was concerned about a young lady working in a courthouse, trying to impact lives of young people, would be connected to another woman who was concerned about my position in the kingdom and encouraging me as a young apostle to continue to stay on the wall and continue to do the work of God and be authentic to who I am, that we're all connected in the same way. Now that's called apostolic succession.
Yes.
So you don't know it. God has connected us in so many ways in the kingdom, whether we're there and even in the marketplace, in the government. He has connected. And y'all know they scared of what I might run for next.
Yeah, I know they will be. Because they can't shift and shape you in any kind of way.
They know I know how to run.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? If anybody asks you, what's the matter with me?
Come on.
Saved, sanctified. Holy Ghost,
and
I'm running for my life. To God be the glory. And I admire you too. I admire you from day one. You really got to be my niecey. I just thank God for you and the things you were doing. And I'll never forget when we were in conversation and talking, and you were sharing your background and your history with music and the places God has planted you and allowed you to be, and the things He has done for you as a woman. You started singing some stuff and you went, then I was telling you, oh, wait a minute, you got to meet my son. He sings. Oh, wow. And you two were in there just trading on classical operatic sound. And
yes,
I was like, God, you're good. That same connection happens. Mm-hmm. And so I'm grateful that's what it is. And that's why I said yes to this assignment, because I'm like, this is a door. Mm-hmm. And if we don't walk through open doors and we don't hold doors for others to walk through, then we're missing the mark.
Yes. That's so good. That's our main point. A lot of people ask, what is your main objective? My main objective is for people to see what's a lot of things that are needed in the earth are not necessarily in the front. There's a lot of background work being done that people don't see. This building just didn't get up by itself. It was built up. It was built up through other people. And so, we just always talk about, and I'm full tonight, y'all. I'm telling y'all, she has inspired me to go on another further, praise God. Some things that I have in my eyesight to do, and have sometimes shied back because of all the obstacles out there. But listening to her,
Wow.
Baby, I feel like a superhero, baby. Let's go, let's
You
go.
can do
I'm
it.
ready. I'm ready to go
You can do
because
it.
if she can do it, so can I. You
And
know,
do it even greater. You can do it greater.
I'm telling y'all, listen. I don't know if y'all got food, but baby, I done had my free lunch. Y'all had some free lunch, baby. I've had my free lunch. Brother, do you have anything else in the background? Because I know you burning. You better say something. You better say something now, because I know he just a plethora of questions. Just before we end, can you just tell us what do you believe it means to be a strong woman?
The late Whitney Houston wrote a song that says, "We don't know our own strength."
Mm-hmm.
A strong woman is resilient. She is ready and able to do what she needs to do. She has a sense of purpose. She is strong in her relationship with God and strong in her relationship with others. A woman of strength realizes that we're as strong as the weakest link that we may be attached to. So then we have to go back and restore those links because all of us are linked together in many ways. And I realized that I'm standing on shoulders. I believe it was Oprah Winfrey that said that many people are bridges and we're bridges for so many others. That my life is the result of people who sold into me and believed that I could be something and be what God would have me to be. And I'm thankful. And I'm so glad that through my life, I believe God has broken some cycles and some things of generational things that were working against me. And therefore, I don't let people take me. And that's my last saying. I gave you one of them. But this one is don't let people take you to a place you're not willing to go.
That is so good. That is so good. I'm going to tell you what, tonight, you have broken some cycles in people tonight, just with your testimony of your life. I'm telling you tonight, I know that generational perpetual curses that they've been operating and thinking that's how it had to be. It has been broken tonight based off your information alone. And I'm telling you, you have really, just with the information, have restored some old wasted places in people. And I'm telling you, some of your fields, you bought up a lot. I can hear that you bought up a lot of fields that look like nothing. And you have restored those places, but you bought them to cover that one treasure that was hidden in all that rubbish. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your story. It's just phenomenal. Whether you are a woman on this line, even men, you should be totally just inspired to, push each other. Like those women like this, and they're married to men, man, they are walking hand in hand with some strong men. I think if we learn to just cultivate each other just in the space, allow each other to be whatever they're called to be unapologetically, you will see just infinite things happen, like kingdoms growing. I mean, people, all the competition can be thrown out of the window, and you will see just an exponential growth happen because people are willing and are allowing people to just be everything they're supposed to be in God on period. Okay. So my brother said something is formulating. He said, in some circles, there are still those religious strongholds. My question is, why is there an issue with women being ordained as elders, but they will license them as evangelists?
I'm going to tell them that I truly believe that change is on the horizon. There's certainly some traditional denominations that really do view women as subservient. They view women totally different. But I have seen some positive change that while they view it, I've seen some doors open. The thing is, we got to be careful when the door is open, that in going through that door, we don't, they'll come and we always want to allude about the denial without recognizing that if you're in the door, you don't have to go back and throw off about what they didn't do.
Yes.
Women's Day is not an opportunity to bash men. It's an opportunity to tell our story.
Yes.
Move forward. So there are some places, but I'm grateful. See, now you asked the question, well, you're a judge and you're also a retired judge. Let me get that straight. And you're also an apostle, a pastor. You serve in the work of the church. This is key for me. Even though there are some doors that have opened to me because I was a judge, because I have the education. I remember debating a man one day. He says, "You don't have a doctorate." I said, "Oh, I have a very well-earned doctorate." And they had no idea that. I said, when I graduated from law school, I had 3 bars on my sleeve and I earned them. So, those are some doors that may open because of those credentials and those things that you have. Yet I went backtrack a little bit, got me a master in theological from Lexington Theological Seminary so I could be able to meet the requirements of my denomination to receive my papers. And I did. Because that's important. They just asked me the other day, do I want a doctor in ministry? I told them, let me pray about it. So there are places that do it, but the way we got to do is keep doing the work. I feel like the Langston, he's also while I still climbing. You may talk, but I'm climbing. Right. You may say what I'm not, but it doesn't change the fact that I know who I am and I know whose I am. And I'm able to move by that. So I sometimes can't change them, but I have preached in many churches and many denominations, whether I've been in the pulpit or whether I've been on the floor or whether I can be on the stoop. I've given what the word of God has been. I've preached it to the best of my ability. But I understand some doors you go in, you got to take advantage of the fact that you're there and pray that true change come and that God does what he needs to do.
Oh, I love that. I love that because a lot of us get so caught up with trying to prove ourselves instead of just doing what we're called to do. And that's affecting change. Like I was telling somebody the other day, it was like, Joe, how do you feel about, you've been singing all this while and a lot of places you're not even acknowledged. I'm like, what is the point of being acknowledged? I'm not there for that. I'm there for whenever the door opens and the opportunity is to affect change the, because you don't come in to create an atmosphere. You carry creation with you. Just like God, if I carry God in me, he is the Lord of creation. I carry creation with me. So all I'm there to do is to change climate. That. Yeah.
That. I carry creation.
I carry creation.
To change climate.
Right. That's
I'm going to borrow that.
Come on, borrow it. I'm just telling you, a lot of people, because every church, or every place has a certain climate. And the people there have to be cultivated under a certain climate. For some people, it's tropical. Some people need extra rain. So you just got to understand what atmosphere you in and be able to adhere. Like, okay, these people are a little dehydrated. They need some extra rain. So maybe what I need to bring to the midst is rain. But if I carry creation with me, wherever I go, whatever is needed, I have it. Amen. I have it. That's it. Look, my brother, I love it. Yes, I know. I told you. TT Fatty gonna put some fat on your head. That's what the old folks say. You want some fat on your head. That's understanding. That's what we need. So I appreciate you tonight, man. I'm sure you're gonna be back because
thank you.
Yes, I'm sure you're going to be back. I just got that feeling, my brother. Please stay on a little bit afterwards. We do have after time talk once we get off the live. But I appreciate each and every one of you for coming on tonight. I hope something was said. Listen, y'all should be full tonight. We got free lunch tonight. Okay. Dinner and a movie. I'm just saying. I can't wait till she write this book. She's going to be back on here to talk about this book. Okay, and we're going to push it and press it, and we're going to help sell it and make her a commercial to have it go on and do what it's going to do because it's worth the read. Like, I'm ready to read the story. She's an epistle read of me, and I'm ready to read the story so I can get some understanding so I can push. I think I'm finna sign up for school. I feel like I need to go back to school, like, for real. I've been talking about it, but listening to you, I think, Darnell, I think I'm finna sign that paper. Yes, we do. We need to put her on the panel for real at the end of the month. Yes, we do. I concur. So we'll check her schedule to see if she can come back. But I love you guys and I appreciate you coming on. We pray ministering angels over your house that something that was said tonight will get deep down in your soil and grow. I pray for exponential growth in this month. I pray for supernatural increase. I pray that your mind was expounded tonight. I pray no more haziness in the mind. I pray for clarity of sight. I pray that everything that is needed for you to go to this next place, to this another place, I pray that everything that you needed tonight, it started in this place and on this platform. We love you guys, and we will see you next week. Until next time, thank you for coming to the Konversation Podcast. Peace out.